Politicians say tariffs make foreign countries pay. They're wrong. In 2018 to 2019, when the US slapped tariffs on billions in Chinese goods, prices on those exact goods rose almost immediately, by roughly the full tariff amount. The money didn't come from Beijing, it came from American shoppers. Here's how the system actually works, and why the same thing is happening again in 2026. Let's start with the belief almost everyone has. Tariffs punish foreign countries. It sounds logical. You tax imports, foreign companies suffer, domestic industries win. Except that's not actually how the money moves, because tariffs aren't paid by foreign governments. They're paid at the border by the importer bringing the product into the country. The bill goes to the US importer through US customs, and once that importer pays the tariff, they have three options: raise prices, cut costs, or absorb the loss. And guess which one usually happens? Let's follow a pair of $100 trainers. The manufacturer overseas sells them to a US importer for $100. Now a 10% tariff is added. The importer now owes $10 at the border. Suddenly the trainers cost the importer $110 instead of $100. So the importer raises the wholesale price, the retailer raises the shelf price, and the consumer, you, pays more. A Federal Reserve study from May 2025 found that the tariffs introduced in 2018 to 2019 were passed through to consumer prices fully and quickly, often within about 2 months. In other words, prices went up almost immediately, and this pattern isn't just historical, it's happening again right now. Another Federal Reserve analysis published in March 2026 found that goods imported from China saw 8.5% year-over-year price growth by December 2025, with at least 30% of tariff costs passed through to consumers between April and December 2025. So the idea that tariffs punish foreign countries is only partially true. A large chunk of the cost shows up in domestic prices. Quick question for you. When you hear politicians talk about tariffs, did you think foreign countries were paying them directly? Now zoom out, because the price effects can get bigger than you'd expect. The Yale Budget Lab's 2026 analysis of current tariff policies estimates the existing tariff regime could raise consumer prices by about 0.6% in the short run. That may sound small, but across the whole economy, that translates to roughly $800 in lost purchasing power per household. Earlier estimates from January 2026 suggested the broader tariff system could push consumer prices up 1.3%, costing households about $1,751 per year in real income. Not exactly free punishment for foreign economies. Quick pause here. If you enjoy videos that explain how money and economic systems actually work without the usual political shouting, consider subscribing to Modern Money Explained, because once you understand the system, you start seeing headlines very differently. Now you might be thinking, okay, but tariffs still help domestic industries, right? Sometimes they do, but they also trigger something else: retaliation. And we've seen this before. In 1930, the United States passed one of the most famous tariff laws in history, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. The US Senate Finance Committee describes it as one of the most disastrous protectionist policies ever implemented. After it passed, countries around the world retaliated with their own tariffs. According to National Bureau of Economic Research economist Douglas Irwin, US import volumes fell by over 40% in the 2 years after the tariff was enacted. Now, to be clear, Smoot-Hawley didn't cause the Great Depression by itself, but it did help escalate a global trade war during an already fragile economy. And that's the real risk with tariffs. They don't exist in isolation, they trigger reactions. Let's zoom back to today. In February 2026, the White House announced a temporary 10% import duty under Section 122, aimed at addressing international payment imbalances. In other words, tariffs are not just a history lesson, they're happening right now, which means the real question isn't just, do tariffs hurt foreign countries? It's this: how much do they quietly raise prices at home? And that's the myth most people never hear explained. Tariffs aren't a bill sent overseas, they're a tax collected domestically, and once that cost enters the supply chain, it moves through importers, through distributors, through retailers, until it lands somewhere, very often in the price tag. If you found this video useful, subscribe to Modern Money Explained, where we break down the systems behind money, markets, and economics so you can understand how the game actually works. And before you go, I'm curious. Do you think tariffs are worth it if they protect domestic jobs, even if prices go up? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.